My next guest is best known as a TV presenter. She was on the rival channel, it has to be said, and there she is in her new job at Channel 5. It's Sian Williams, and she made headlines last week when she revealed that away from the cameras, she'd been secretly living with cancer and had undergone a double mastectomy. Ahead of the release of her new book, Surviving and Thriving After Trauma, you've seen Sian is here.
Lovely to see you.
Oh, I've been through the mill with that book, so goodness knows what you've been through. My goodness.
Well, yeah, I felt it needed to be honest, really. And so when I was writing my hospital diaries, because I couldn't visit all these thoughts that were going on in my head, when I was diagnosed, I thought I was healthy, so I didn't take Paul with me to the...
That's your husband.
To the sort of appointment, because I thought, well, it's going to be fine, you know, I do all the right things.
You run, you're fit, you eat well. Yeah.
And then they told me I had breast cancer and needed a double mastectomy. And the first thing I started to do was to write, because I thought if I visit all these emotions on people I love, it'll hurt them, and they are already bewildered. So I never intended, actually, for me to read them, let alone anyone else. And they are very raw, because that is what it's like when you're going through something, and you know, because you've been through your own personal traumas, you know, it's hard to know what to do with all this stuff that's ricocheting around your head.
Yeah. And if you don't get rid of it, actually, it can become damaging.
Absolutely.
So it's good to get it out on paper.
It's good to get it out on paper, and it was very. And I learned later, you know, there is research that says if you write 15 minutes can be, over 3 days, as little as that. It helps with the emotional processing of really, really difficult things.
Well, PTSD, a lot fewer people might suffer from that if they got it out in the way of writing, I guess.
Yeah.
But there you are. So you already had this book, and it was going to be about dealing with trauma and what have you. And then you had your own trauma, which is why your diaries are in the book, because you very much did keep this private. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, one of the people I talked to in the book, and it's not just about me, and it's not just about breast cancer, it's about how people deal with lots of losses in their life, the loss of their health, or their mind, or someone they love. One of those people said to me, you choose with whom to share your story with. And I just chose to share it with very few people, because I just wanted to protect them, and that was our way of dealing with it, and everybody deals with it differently. You know, the same year I was diagnosed, there were 56,000 other people in that 1 year were diagnosed with breast cancer, and they all dealt with it differently. Their diagnosis were all very different. I'm incredibly lucky, because I was told that my cancer was breast-threatening and not life-threatening, and that's a very different place to many other people. I know that. You know, I lost my aunt to breast cancer, one of my closest friends. My mum died of cancer. We've all got people we love who've died of cancer, and we all deal with it very differently, and I just chose to keep it close for a while. And then I spent a year trying to develop a psychological first aid kit for me, initially, talking to other people who'd gone through a different trauma and their coping strategies, looking at the science, because I've done a lot of psychology. I've got a master's in psychology, and I was doing some trauma assessing, just looking at what works, how can we sleep better, how can we eat better, because those are the things that really
all
go.
That's in the book.
And all that's in there, yeah.
But how did you go home after that? And who did you tell first? Your husband, I guess. But what about the children? You've got 4 children, 2 grown-up boys, Alex and Joss, and 2 little ones.
Yes, and Emily, my stepdaughter. And actually, it's interesting, because the adult children, because they're in their 20s now, well, Emily's 19, but I think it suddenly made them grow up very fast. I think that's it.
I know you can't go there, no, because it's so emotional.
When you start talking about the impact on the children, you know, you realise how vulnerable you were. I am still vulnerable, as you can probably tell, and that's okay. You know, I do believe there's a great strength in recognising your own vulnerability and saying, you know what, this is hard, talking about this bit, but that's okay. That's part of what it is to recover. That's part of what getting through trauma is. But they were very protective, so in hospital they would bring me some supper. And they'd be chasing the nurses, and you know, it was a very busy NHS ward, and the staff were incredible, absolutely incredible. You know, they got the cancer, they said that they'd thought that they'd taken all of it out, they can't be sure, it might come back, you know, you live with that uncertainty. and they were always asking loads and loads of questions and kind of leaning forward and were fascinated by it, and they have been marvellous. I took them to the appointments sometimes, yeah.
But do you know what, really, because you felt very emotional there talking about your children. I felt very emotional when I read about your two eldest sons, Alex and Joss. They've been like they're real big men, aren't they? The way they looked after you, the way they went into hospital with you when you were being told exactly what was going to happen to you. And it was all there on the computers, and they were sitting there.
I know. Just going through these pictures of all these women with different mastectomy scars, and it was the first time we were being told about it properly, I suppose. And the breast cancer nurse, Shirley, was absolutely marvellous, and she said, boys, do you want to come in? And I'm saying, boys, you don't need to come in, you know, stay outside.
And they did.
And they went, yeah, we're really interested. And so they came in and they sat there, and she was telling them as she was telling me. And we were going through all, and I'm thinking, they do not need to hear this, but actually they do, and they were fine with it. And now Joss is doing some work with a cancer charity. Alex is a medical student, and he's fascinated by all the new treatments that they're developing, the targeted treatments for breast cancer, for all cancers, because there will come a day where they don't need to do the brutal surgery, you know. They don't need to do chemo and radio.
You've been amazing throughout it. I know when you first were told that you had to have a double mastectomy, your thought was, oh my God, Paul's got a party tonight, I can't let him down, it's with his work colleagues, I can't let him down. And you went to that party, and you've been going and picking the kids up from school with drains hanging out of you. Obviously the fluid from your breasts after the operation was draining into all the time. Where did you think you got that strength from?
Do you know, I thought you were going to say, where did you put the bottles?
Well, I know you wrapped them up in your coat. I read it.
That was just ridiculous, picking them up from schools, and I'm thinking, I don't know where to put these, because they were massive. They were like tubes coming out of under your arms and things. So it's really quite gruesome. I remember being in a doctor's surgery, and I went in, and on the waiting room table there were magazines, and there was one of my colleagues on there looking just beautiful, news colleagues, and it said, how does she manage to juggle her life and still stay so glamorous? And
she hasn't got drains.
And I'm tucking these tubes into the back of my trousers, you know, and I just went into the doctor's and said, how do I get out of here? You know, what's the route map out? And he said, it's going to be really slow, you know, but you need to have a backpack, take it with you, put all the nourishment you need in there. And that's what the book is.
Wow, and you look beautiful now, and you look full of life
smoke and mirrors.
as well.
You know
well,
that.
we all know that. Really lovely to see you, and all the very best.
Thank you, Fiona. Nice to see you again.
Good, you too. OK, then. Now we're off to Hollywood very soon to find out why Adele is